So it's interesting, when you do this for a quarter century and you do this for a long, long time, there aren't any more secrets. But I guess I'd ask you, what have you learned as this game has evolved into a front office role? Still, there is a scout in you every place you go. What's one of the biggest rules that you have learned?
One of the biggest rules I've learned, Darren, is no matter what, the game never gets old, and you can always find a player that you're not expecting to find. Obviously, in today's game, you know, players are more well known with showcases and stuff like this event, but you always have to go to the ballpark expecting to see a big league player, somebody can be a star. That's what I've learned. You always have to have that attitude.
Are you big on bloodlines?
I love bloodlines, absolutely.
Why is that?
You know, I think partly because players, and you would know this as well as anybody, you grow up around the game, you have a father that played in the game and you're around it, and you just learn the game, things, the right way to handle it, what the locker room's like. I think you're not as intimidated a lot of times when you go out into spring training and into pro ball. And, you know, there's something to be said. The father generally a lot of times always was a good player and stuff himself. And so I've always liked bloodlines. And then even if you look at mothers that were good in sports and athletics, a lot of times they have good kids that play. So bloodlines is huge for me.
Son Logan is a catcher, so now you're doing this from the dad's side. Mountain Point High School, the T-Rex Club. And so answer this in two ways. Do you scout him differently than you father him? Is there a little dad that crawls into your head and
yes,
it's like,
it's the most difficult,
right?
It's the most difficult thing I've had to deal with. And when I said bloodlines, I'm generally talking about I love kids like the Bellinger kid. His father Clay played in the big leagues. I don't consider my kid necessarily bloodlines. Maybe bloodlines would be a good scout, but not necessarily baseball because I was a minor league player. But to answer your question, yeah, it's been very difficult for me to separate the father from the scout.
Right.
Because honestly, it's hard for me to enjoy the game sometimes because I'm harsh on him. I see things he needs to do to get better. I see things that aren't as good as his peers and stuff like that. Very difficult sometimes. And I have to remember that I love him no matter if he's a good player or not, and just to go that direction and not let the baseball part overrule my love for him.
So when we look out here and we see the kids out there, there is the advancement of technology. TrackMan, I mean, you can learn about spin rate.
Right.
Will technology at least allow you to go to places and then let your eyes follow? Does that make sense? I mean, how much have you embraced
absolutely
technology?
You know what? I think sometimes they view somebody like myself, who's been in the game a long time, as not embracing technology and some of the things we're learning in baseball with analytics and stuff. But you have to embrace it. Like here, for example, this tournament, you have games going on 16 fields or whatever we have going on, and the TrackMan technology is great because you can look on the phone and you can see how hard guys are throwing, who's up to bat, things like that. You'd be a fool not to utilize it, especially in a setting like this when you're trying to see a lot of players. So I think you have to always look at ways to, you know, to enhance your ability to do a better job in the scouting world.
But what have Jerry and Betty done right? I'm going first name basis here.
Yeah, I love
you know,
them.
the founders of Perfect Game.
Right.
The scout in you, that's the baseball organizational guy, what has this group done right?
Well, I think the first thing they did right, I go back, I'm old enough to go back when they first started. I think their intent was to help players from a cold weather state that weren't getting a chance to be seen.
Right.
And I think it was the good of their hearts what started this organization. And so I think when you look at that, that's what they started. And to think that it would evolve into this, I don't know anybody that could have predicted it, to where the one thing that they do is help players get exposure and enhance their lives that way. Players that have played here, let's say, whoever it would be that's playing in the major leagues, I don't think they help them play in the major leagues. Like, for example, say Corey Seager with the Dodgers, I don't think he's going to be a big league player whether he came here or not. But let's face it, coming here and playing here, it helps them get used to the pressure and then they get the exposure. So I think that's one of the things they've done right, is putting kids in that competitive environment where they can get used to, you know, how many hundreds of scouts are here going around, and they get used to that too. So I think it helps from that standpoint.
I always liken it to an amazing musician or an amazing singer.
Right.
They just build a very nice stage and quality spotlights. You still have to be a good singer and a good musician, right?
Yes.
But they'll build the stage for you to step onto, right?
That's a great analogy. I think that's what it is. It's a great analogy, Darren. I couldn't think of one better, because it is a stage for the kids to come in here and step onto it and see. And you know, like I said, I don't like to, and I always try to teach the scouts or talk to myself about it too. Hey, be aware there's some guy that's the backup singer that you need to be paying attention to, because that backup singer may become, you know, the lead singer someday.
Nice. Nice.